How's it going, everyone? Bunnyman Productions here. So, MetaZoo released its first ever cards in September of 2020. These black bordered cards were the first ever printing of MetaZoo cards handed out mostly for free across the community, and they're largely considered to be some of the biggest grails in the hobby today. The last known sample Mothman sold for roughly $10,000. This screenshot here is the first ever recorded Holo sample tier list I could find. Came out roughly 7 months after the samples were initially released. Again, my name is Bunnyman Productions, pretty huge sample collector in the community. I collect both Holo and non-Holo samples, and today I'm going to go over where I think this list is roughly 2.5 years later, in November of 2023. Right off the bat here, I can see some big shockers. Jersey Devil is extremely highly rated on this list in my opinion, and Piazza Bird is very low. But again, this is a historical list, so I'm trying to give everyone an update on where things are now in the current market. Starting off the list, this is the F tier. These samples are what I would just recommend for people just looking to own any Holo sample. Every Holo sample is pretty rare. There's only 100 copies of each one, but usually if you look hard enough, you can pick up one of these for only a couple $100 in the current market, which can be pretty nice. These cards are Sinkhole Sam, Dover Demon, Aura Battery, and Aura Generator. A fun fact about Aura Battery and Aura Generator are that they are the only samples on the list that have not been released in the current red bordered version of the game. In the D tier, you have cards like Giant Space Brains, Blockheads, Bloodlust, and the Aura Crystals. While these samples are like maybe slightly better than the F tier, they still aren't very popular, and I would price them in today's market around the $300 to $400 range. This is the C tier. This is probably where you would get the biggest bang for your buck. These samples start to get a little more difficult to find, but if you can find them, you can usually pick them up for around $400 to $500. The most interesting card here is the Jersey Devil, I think, which used to be considered to be on par with Mothman per the list 2.5 years ago, but it just doesn't really have the same popularity in today's community. Hodag and Chupacabra are also pretty notable because of how well they are known in pop culture and the greater cryptid community. They're really not that popular amongst MetaZoo collectors. B tier is where you start getting into the more notable cards, I would say. I'd say each one of these cards is fairly popular in its own right. Dingbell is rumored to be the protagonist's sidekick in the upcoming manga. Walking Sam was the mascot for one of the core sets in Seance. Everyone knows Men in Black because of the Will Smith movies. These will likely cost anywhere from $500 to $700 in today's market. But that being said, a lot of these do not come up for sale that often due to low populations and desirability amongst collectors. Alright, now we're getting to some of the big hitters of the Holo sample world. These samples and what they represent are some of the most iconic beasties and artworks in MetaZoo, and kind of each deserve their own talking points. From left to right, Sam St. Clair is the main protagonist of MetaZoo. Indra Cold is the main antagonist of MetaZoo and has an artwork that only exists in the sample version. Chaos Crystal is what some consider the Black Lotus of MetaZoo. Wendigo was one of the most popular beasties in 2 of the core sets, Nightfall and Native. The Grim Reaper is one of the most powerful cards in the game. Quetz dominated the competitive gameplay scene for roughly a year. It's probably the most iconic lightning beastie. Piazza Bird is the most popular fire beastie. Bigfoot is probably the best known cryptid on the planet, if I'm being honest. Cumberland Dragon has an artwork that only really exists in the sample version. And Babe the Blue Ox is from a story that a lot of people grew up with here in the United States, so that's also a fairly popular and difficult one to find as well. Getting toward the top here is Loveland Frogman. This card hardly ever comes up for sale, but I believe that the last known sale was around $3K. Loveland Frogman is rumored to have a large part in the story, and MetaZoo even did a large tournament in Loveland, Ohio. It was one of the first dominant decks in MetaZoo history, and people just love a good frog with a wizard hat, if I'm being frank. This and the top card on the list were both drawn by Kelsey Ticino, who is largely considered to be one of the MetaZoo's best artists. And finally, we have the Mothman himself in the S Plus tier. There's a huge premium on the sample Mothman at around 10 grand if you can find one for sale, with a lot of people considering this to be the ultimate MetaZoo grail. MetaZoo has done multiple events in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, which is the Mothman's hometown, and it's by and large considered to be the most popular beastie in MetaZoo, with a lot of collectors collecting different variations of Mothman exclusively. That being said, I hope everyone enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see more videos like this, or if you would rather see more gameplay videos per my other content. It's been a while since I posted on this channel, and I'm not sure like which direction I want to take it yet, but I had a fun time making this list and figured it would be a good way to provide an update for these cards. So cheers, thank you.